4 goals against Iraq, 3 against Senegal, 2 wins from 2 games. Erling Haaland has scored in 12 straight competitive appearances for his country. He is currently tied second in the Golden Boot race at a World Cup, alongside Mbappe, 1 goal behind Messi, and somehow nobody is talking about Norway. That's the thing about being absent for 28 years. People stop expecting you, they stop fearing you, they file you under nostalgic footnote and move on. That was a mistake. To understand why this Norway team is different, you have to understand what 28 years of absence actually means. This is a country of 5.5 million people. Erling Haaland was born in July 2000, 19 days after Norway's last international tournament ended. He has never watched his own nation play at a World Cup. Not as a child, not as a teenager, not once. And he wasn't alone. An entire generation of Norwegian fans grew up routing for other teams, watching other nations, borrowing somebody else's tournament. The 1998 squad gave the country something real. They went to France, beat reigning champions Brazil in the group stage, reached the round of 16, tore Andre Flo, Henning Berg, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a generation that proved Norway could compete at the top level. Then they missed 6 consecutive World Cups, gone. While France won 1, Brazil reached finals, Germany collapsed and rebuilt. Norway just wasn't there. Qualifying campaigns would start with genuine hope and end in the same places, knocked out by better organized nations, lacking the consistent quality to bridge the gap between talent and tournament football. But here's what was quietly happening underneath all of that. Norwegian players were leaving, not to sit on benches, to play aggressively at the highest level. Ødegaard to Real Madrid at 16, Haaland developing through Salzburg and Dortmund, Sørloth in La Liga, Ayer in the Premier League, Nusa emerging at Leipzig, a generation being forged in Europe's hardest competitions week after week, year after year. The infrastructure for something historic was being assembled. It just needed a World Cup to prove it. When Norway entered UEFA qualifying for 2026, there was one question most people weren't asking: can they win the group? They were asking, will Haaland stay fit? The answer, as it turned out, was irrelevant, because Norway didn't just win the group, they won every single game. 8 matches, 8 wins, 37 goals scored, 5 conceded, a goal difference of plus 32. The most dominant European qualifying campaign in Norwegian football history. They beat Moldova 11-1 in Oslo. Haaland scored 5, Felo Asgard scored 4. It looked like a training drill. Then Italy came to Ullevål, not a tournament footnote, a 4-time world champion, a side with Donnarumma, Barella, Bastoni. Norway beat them 3-0. Haaland scored. Nusa tormented the Italian defense all night, and when the final qualifier arrived in Milan at San Siro, under the lights, with Italy needing a result to secure automatic qualification, Norway went to their ground and won 4-1. Haaland scored twice. Nusa started it. Strand Larsen finished it. Italy, a nation that had already missed 2 consecutive World Cups, was sent to the playoffs again. Norway were heading to North America. When Haaland was asked afterwards what it meant, he didn't talk about himself. He said, "I never experienced the World Cup as a small kid in this country. I'm super happy for the kids in Norway to experience it, because I would have loved to have seen Norway playing in the World Cup." That's the weight behind what you're watching at this tournament. This isn't just football, this is 28 years of waiting delivered in a World Cup. The opening game against Iraq carried all the tension of a nation re-entering a conversation it had been locked out of for nearly 3 decades. Norway didn't blink. Inside the first half hour, Haaland had already scored twice. A slide-in finish from a low cross, a ruthless second after chasing a goalkeeper's miskick with the kind of hunger you can't coach. Iraq pulled one back through Ayman Hussein. Norway answered through Ødegaard's header from an Ødegaard corner, and in the 96th minute, a Haaland header he deflected in made it 4-1. The world nodded. Of course, it was Iraq. Norway were always winning that. Then came Senegal. Kalidou Koulibaly, Nicholas Jackson, Sadio Mane. A physically powerful side with real pace in behind, real quality in midfield, and nothing to lose. Julian Ryerson went off injured in the 13th minute. Substitute Marcus Pedersen came on for his World Cup debut and had never looked more nervous until the 43rd minute when a Koulibaly error let him fire home Norway's first goal. 3 minutes into the second half, Ødegaard surged through the midfield and threaded a perfect pass into Haaland's path. One touch, buried past Mendy, 2-0. Norway's all-time leading scorer at a World Cup in just his second game. Senegal fought back, Sarr twice. The last goal came in the 93rd minute and made it 3-2. There was a nervy final stretch. Norway sunk into defensive shape to protect the lead, and it worked. 2 games, 2 wins, 7 goals scored by Haaland alone, a place in the knockout rounds secured with 1 group game still to play. This isn't a fluke, this is a team built for this. Let's be clear about what Norway actually is. The obvious conversation starts and ends with Haaland, and that's understandable. At 25, he is arguably the most efficient striker in the history of international football. 59 goals in 52 caps. He has scored in 12 straight competitive appearances. He is the first Norwegian player to score in consecutive World Cup games. Against Senegal, he became only the second player in 50 years to score multiple goals in each of his first 2 World Cup matches. Harry Kane in 2018 was the other. He doesn't need perfect service. He doesn't need 15 touches in the build-up. He needs a pass into the channel or a cross into the box or a moment of defensive chaos, and the ball is in the net. He is a problem that cannot be managed, only hoped against. But the more important conversation is what surrounds him. Martin Ødegaard ran Arsenal to their first Premier League title in 22 years. He is the creative axis of this team, the player who dictates tempo, who finds Haaland with passes defenders don't see coming. Against Senegal, he already had his 9th assist for Haaland in international football, more than any other player has ever provided for the striker in a Norway shirt. Then there's Antonio Nusa, 21 years old, RB Leipzig, with the directness and pace to terrify any fullback on the planet. He doesn't always start, which means he can change games from the bench when opposition teams are already broken. That's a tactical weapon. Alexander Sørloth at Atletico Madrid brings a different dimension. Physical, composed in the box, capable of leading the line independently if Haaland needs rest or runs into foul trouble. This isn't just a one-man tournament for Norway. Sander Berg anchors the midfield, covers ground, wins second balls, shields the defense, distributes quickly. The high press that Ståle Solbakken has built depends on Berger's engine. Without that press, the whole machine changes shape. And Solbakken himself deserves a mention. A manager who has taken Norway from perpetual nearly men to a side that hasn't lost in 18 of their last 19 matches. He plays a fluid 4-3-3, presses aggressively, transitions at speed and isn't afraid to make bold decisions. Against Senegal, when Ryerson went off early, there was no panic. The shape adapted. Norway kept playing their football. Now for the question nobody wants to ask. Norway are about to face France. Mbappe, Dembélé, Rabiot. The team that has already beaten Senegal 3-1 and Iraq 3-0. Group winners already secured, but Norway can still beat them, and if they do, their knockout path gets significantly easier. Here's the real honest assessment. This Norway team has everything to be dangerous in the knockout rounds. A generational striker, a playmaker at the absolute peak of his career, pace in wide areas, tactical structure, and 28 years of pent-up national hunger. What they don't have yet is proof against elite tournament opposition in the later stages. They haven't been tested by a team that truly presses high, defends brilliantly, and has the quality to hurt them on the counter. France will be that test, and then, if they get through, there will be another. But here's the thing about Norway at this World Cup that matters more than any tactical breakdown. Erling Haaland stood in front of a microphone before this tournament and said his biggest goal in football wasn't winning the Champions League, it wasn't the Ballon d'Or, it was getting Norway to the World Cup. He did that. Now he's here. And for a player who has already won everything at club level, who has 3 Premier League golden boots, who has torn apart the best defences in Europe for years, the World Cup is the only stage he has never conquered. That kind of motivation doesn't show up in stats, but you can feel it. Every time he runs onto a pass, every time he wheels away celebrating, every time Norway's fans fill the stands with their rowing chant, arms pulling invisible oars in perfect unison. The world stopped talking about Norway 28 years ago. It won't make that mistake again.